you're not going to have a perfect day every day. That's just not a thing. So, if you have a bad few days or even a bad week, don't let it kind of manifest itself and turn into a bad month or two, because it's a vicious cycle.
Hello, and welcome to Distraction. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell, your host. Today, we have an unusual guest. Andrew Ewald is his name. He's a college student. He was referred to us by a regular guest on the podcast, Kristen Seymour, out in St. Louis. She just thought you all would love hearing from him and about him. So with that somewhat cryptic introduction, let me welcome to Distraction, Andrew Ewald.
Hi, how's it going? Thank you for having me, Ned.
Oh, it's really our pleasure, because it's not me who does this. It's a whole team. We're here to talk about you. Can you just tell me your story in as many or few words as you like? What was education? What was growing up? What was it like living with ADD, not knowing it, and then what changed once you found out about it? Just jump in and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I was diagnosed with ADD around 5th or 6th grade, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was pretty easy to tell for a lot of people. I was never the kid, though, that was in class talking too much or making distraction. But for some reason, it was more for me the not being able to kind of understand directions on an assignment, or just kind of not being able to really focus on my work because I was worried more about tapping my foot or stuff like that. So I kind of realized it at that point, and it was nothing like too bad. But starting about sophomore year of high school, I had a really bad depression and some other things going on, OCD and stuff like that. So I kind of almost just put ADD in the background for a little while, it seemed like, till about a year ago when I would be going to the doctor to, get medicine and talk, and it would just be more about the depression or OCD or bipolar, stuff like that, more than the ADD.
Oh, wait a minute, Andrew. That's a big mouthful. So you start high school, and you're depressed, and you got OCD, and then you mentioned bipolar?
Yeah, but the bipolar was, I guess, diagnosed actually going into my sophomore year of college. Okay,
so that wasn't in play. But in high school, you were struggling with depression?
Yeah, that was the most serious thing.
Okay, and the OCD, how did that manifest?
Really, that was kind of interesting, because little things, the classic, had to wash my hands 3 times before I could leave the bathroom. And after a while, I actually started working with just a OCD kind of therapist too. I mean, it's kind of gone away. Like right now, I don't really tell.
Okay, but going back to high school, so you had these OCD symptoms, and you saw someone to talk about that. Did you take medication for it?
Yeah, I did. I can't totally remember which medicine was for that, but that's kind of what I was getting at. I was just more worried about the other problems going on at the time rather than the ADD kind of.
I get it. But the other problems were OCD and depression?
Yeah.
And how did that manifest?
Really, the depression was really tough. It lasted for about, I want to say, 9 or 10 months that year. I really couldn't do anything. I could barely get out of bed. I would eat a ton. I would go downstairs to my basement and just turn all the lights off, not talk to anyone. And, so after that, it was just kind of tough and dealing with that. And then the OCD also.
No, I'm sorry, but what year was this when you were in the basement with the lights off?
That was sophomore year of high school, going into junior year.
Okay, and what did you do about that?
Well, I'd been seeing my psychiatrist at the time, Dr. Friesen, since about 6th grade. But at that time, it was a lot of kind of going and talking to him, just trying to find the right medication combination, I guess.
Now, you say you've been seeing him since 6th grade. What were you seeing him for way back then?
That was started with generalized anxiety and then also the ADD kind of right about at that point.
6th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, so in sixth grade, you got diagnosed with generalized anxiety as well as ADD.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and what did your doctor do about that back in sixth grade?
The generalized anxiety, I kind of started with some medication, and really the worst part of that was it affected my sleeping so much. Mm-hmm. So I had to take some like sleeping medication and stuff for that. I mean, obviously that's still a thing I deal with, and most people do. But yeah, it was not as bad as I thought, because the ADD I kind of started with. I started off taking Vyvanse for that.
In sixth grade?
Yeah.
Okay, so back in sixth grade, you got onto Vyvanse, and you were seeing a therapist for your anxiety disorder.
Yes.
Okay, and what happened?
Honestly, it seemed throughout middle school it wasn't bad. I mean, I think also the work and things I was doing weren't as serious and tough, so the ADD didn't affect it as much at that point, but it definitely helped, I think. It was, Dr. Friesen's been one of the most helpful people. It's been great to have, a psychiatrist that I've been with for a while, and you don't have to explain new stuff, because it took about 3 or 4 of them before I found him. And,
wow.
Yeah, it kind of was just finding that medication, that change, and then also I had to really tell him what was making me so anxious.
Do you remember what was making you so anxious?
I would make up things that made no sense. I thought my parents were going to get divorced, which they have never talked about that or ever gotten in a fight basically in front of me, but I had that in my mind for some reason. I was scared of bad guys till I was about 16. I couldn't go to bed. I would sleep on my parents' floor sometimes at age 16 because I was so scared someone was going to come.
Scared of bad guys? You mean burglars, criminals, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
That someone was going to invade the house and
That's always been one of my biggest fears for some reason. Yeah, and I think we've never had a break-in or anything like that.
Right, but you were afraid of it nonetheless.
Yeah, it's just those kind of made-up thoughts that get so ingrained in your head after a while that you almost believe them.
Yeah, well, it's the price you pay for having an imagination. Yeah. So then in high school, you went into this terrible depression.
Yeah.
And you and Dr. Friesen, you worked your way out of that over 9 months, huh?
Yeah, it was one of the toughest times for sure, probably the toughest of my life. I almost think about it as being like a zombie almost. I would just go through the motions so much during the day and then get home and turn the lights off and try to sleep, because that was kind of the only thing where you got relief almost from when you weren't awake. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I almost felt like my brain wasn't really like turned on. I just kind of was trying to just get through a day so much that it didn't. I just wanted to not think.
But you managed to stay in school.
Yeah, I did. I definitely struggled that year. I remember grade-wise, and I think combined those 2 years, I had 60 or 80 tardies. I would literally walk into school like 2 periods late and have to ask what class it was because I'd just waken up, because I would be sleeping for 14 or 16 hours that day, or I wouldn't go to bed for a day or two straight. It was just it was tough to get on a schedule and stuff like that.
Wow. And how did you make sense of it? I mean, what did you think was going on?
For a while, that's what almost made it so frustrating, was I don't know what caused it. I didn't have any big moment in my life where it came about. I kind of just started feeling real bad and out of the blue almost. And my parents definitely were able to pick up on it, which I'm thankful for. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I kind of had to talk it through with my parents, my doctors,
But nothing bad had happened. In other words, this wasn't in reaction to somebody dying? Or...
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, I've had a great childhood growing up. I've had almost everything I could ask for, and then why am I so depressed and not able to move? It was kind of like, how is this happening, which became frustrating for me.
And you never did get an explanation, except it just happened.
Yeah. It really did. I mean, I guess in a way, genetics or some stuff like that. But yeah, I could never really figure it out.
Well, that's the thing about the disease of depression. It is usually not caused by something. You just wander into it, and then it takes you over. But 9 months, wow. So was it you finally found a medication that would work, along with your talking with Dr. Friesen? Yeah,
exactly. I think that's what finally got it out. I kind of I had to force myself to do more, obviously, too. I had to even if I didn't want to go do something, I had to go make myself play golf or get out of the house somehow so I wouldn't kind of fall back into that as like just thinking the whole night about stuff that's gone wrong.
And how did you make yourself do it? Because one big part of you didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's once I started feeling a little better, like later in the depression. But yeah, my parents were really adamant about me kind of going out and trying to do stuff. Even just like my whole thing, I love talking to people, talking stuff like that. But I wouldn't even want to see friends. So they'd try to if something was going on, they'd be like, just go, have fun.
Natural you is you really like to be with people.
Oh yeah, that's probably my favorite thing to do at all is just hang out and talk to people, learn about them and listen to what they're saying, and then just have a conversation. But at that time, that's why it was real weird. It was like I don't want to be around anyone.
Wow. So here you were, a very outgoing kid who loved people, and now suddenly you don't want to be around anyone.
Yeah, it was the most obvious sign for my parents at that point when I just couldn't be around anyone.
Is there a family history of depression?
Yeah, there is actually. That's why I was connected to genetics. My grandpa on my mom's side has that.
So that was his genetic bequest to you.
Yeah, I guess so in a way. And yeah, I remember one thing he told me was when I was kind of struggling, I really struggled with just taking my medicine every day, which seems so easy to do, and it is, but I just, for some reason, would miss a day or two thinking it's all right. And I remember him telling me, he's like, I struggled like about 20 or 30 years ago, and he said, but now I take my medicine every day and it's fine. But he's like, you can never miss a day because I'll never want to feel like what I used to. So that kind of finally ingrained it in my head that I need to, stay on a regimen, focus on like being positive and also taking my medicine.
So then you went off you got through high school.
Yep.
You came through the depression, right?
Yes. I started my first year at McKendree University, actually, to go there and play golf. And unfortunately, about 6 or 7 weeks into the school year, the depression came back. And I had to leave the team, and I lived at home the second semester. But yeah, it was definitely a frustrating time. I thought, everything's going to be good, going to college, stuff like that. And then boom, another kind of depressive episode that at least it lasted a little shorter. It was about 5 or 6 months for that one.
5 or 6 months. Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah.
To be feeling that bad. But the medication didn't help?
I guess something after, it kind of didn't mix well after a while, and that was when I started a different medication, again, having to talk to Dr. Friesen and stuff like that, but it was definitely a tough time. So then
you continue on in college? You changed to another college?
Yeah, I did actually. After my freshman year at McKendree, I transferred to Mizzou.
For those of us who don't know what Mizzou is, what's Mizzou?
University of Missouri in Columbia.
University of Missouri in Columbia. You all call it Mizzou?
Yeah.
Okay, so you transferred to Mizzou.
Yeah, for my sophomore year. And again, school those first 2 years, I barely got any credits. I had to withdraw a ton, stuff like that. It just going to Mizzou that summer, I was super pumped, ready to go, and then just seemed something was off, and I couldn't get stuff done, things like that. So that was not as great. And after that, I had to end up transferring to Moberly Area Community College, which I'm at now, which is like 5 minutes or so from Mizzou, so I can still stay and be with my friends and have a good time, but also, finally get my schoolwork done as well.
And were you still taking the Vyvanse?
I was on that from 6th grade actually till the last 2 summers ago. So summer of going into my junior year, I actually had a really bad moment when I withdrew from all my medicine. It was the first time I really was like, I'm going from medication to medication now to live. I felt like I would take so many milligrams of Vyvanse in the morning so I could get to the midday to take my next Vyvanse, and then I'd have to take trazodone and clonazepam to go to bed so I could actually finally fall asleep. And it just felt like drug to drug and not enjoying it. And then not a great idea. I just stopped taking them all for about 2 weeks and had a bad bad withdrawal, suicidal thoughts, stuff like that. And then that was when I was done with all of them kind of. They'd kind of got out of my system, so I started a new drug regimen almost at that point, and now I'm taking Adderall, which actually was one of the biggest helps. Kristen was kind of the one that wanted me to try that, and it's been huge for me, really.
Kristen is your coach, the person you work for. Yeah. And she suggested trying Adderall, and that was a good suggestion, huh?
Yeah, it really was, because I was almost, a little worried to try and take that kind of stuff again, but that was really the first time I kind of like felt, what everyone says, like zoned in on schoolwork. I would go study for 3 or 4 hours, which I'd never done before, stuff like that. But time just seemed to not take as long, almost when I was on it, which was good.
Mm-hmm. And the depression is gone?
Yeah, now it's something it's going to be an everyday thought and struggle, but I don't deal with it as much now. I don't have it, and it's definitely a good thing.
Do you still take depression medication?
Yeah, I take medication that's meant to, I think, not have that come up again.
What meds do you take?
Now I'm on Lexapro, Lamictal, Lamotrigine, the Adderall, and I sometimes take medicine to go to bed now. I think Prozazine. And it also is nice because, it's not nearly as many pills as I used to have to take, so
good.
It's kind of a positive there.
And your mood is sustaining itself? You feel good about life? And
yeah, it really has. I mean, I've had a few, Kristen actually told me something that I've always tried to think of. You're not going to have a perfect day every day. That's just not a thing. So, if you have a bad few days or even a bad week, don't let it kind of manifest itself and turn into a bad month or two, because it's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm. And now, how do people fit into all of this? Kristen's told me that you're big on connection. How does all that figure in?
Really, I kind of attribute, getting through my depression to my friends. They're just people that I've been lucky enough to befriend, and they want me to, they just want the best for me. A good example is two of my best buddies, Alex Hahn and Jack Rule. They're always, trying to get me to work out and do stuff like get me out of the house, force me to do that stuff. And in a good way, like they want me to be healthy. They want me to feel good. And it's just, that encouragement is really something I think everyone needs. And once you really look back on it and can be grateful for it, it's really cool. It's really cool to see how much someone else can care for you and want the best for you, really.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. And then, it goes both ways. I want to help them as much as I can, too. And once you kind of find relationships with people that you can really let, your whole self out to them, it's a whole new feeling, really, when you can tell someone something that you're worried to tell, and they accept it and just want to help.
Yeah, say more about that.
Honestly, I kind of started realizing that with the depression when I didn't want to talk to anyone or tell anyone, and that's almost part of the disease. I think is being afraid to ask for help at that point. I've told so many people that have told me they're not that they might be struggling. I'm like, hey man, just call me, let me know if you need anything. And then I see myself not being able to call or ask for help, and it's kind of weird. You would think it would be easy to do. But, it's really cool to have people that you feel comfortable enough to tell them anything. And then my friends and I feel so comfortable, telling stuff if we're struggling, or you kind of go from a joking conversation most of the time to when it gets serious, and we all kind of know when it's serious, I guess.
Say more about what makes it hard to reach out when you're feeling bad.
I was just not able to reach out to my friends, and it got to the point where my friends would text me and be like, yo, let's go do something, let's watch the game, hang out, and I wouldn't even want to do that. So it's like now I'm kind of dodging them and not asking for their help, which just almost adds to the feeling bad. You got to make it an excuse to not go hang out, and you feel even worse about that at that point.
Sure. I struggle with the same kind of thing, Andrew. We'll be supposed to go to a party. My wife loves partying and dancing, and she'll say, well, let's go. And I'll say, no, I just want to stay home and watch TV. I want to lay on the bed and just watch TV. And make the world go away. I'm not up for people, you know. She says, but you like these people. And I say, yeah, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to make small talk. I don't want to go through the effort. I just let you go to the party and just let me sit here and, watch TV and, and she'll say, no, you'll feel much better if you go. And I say, oh, that's what you always say, but I just don't want to. I just want to hang back. And she says, well, I don't want to go alone. And I say, you'll have a great time. You know everybody there. A lot of people will dance with you, and I'll just sit here. And she browbeats me, and finally I against my wishes, I go to the party, and sure enough, it always happens. I end up having a great time, but getting me out of that stuck, go away, leave me alone, I just want to watch TV self, it's hard, and because there's a big side of me that just it doesn't want to do anything, just life's too much. I'm just gonna withdraw and sit here. And fortunately, I'm married to someone who won't let me do that. But you have your parents and your friends who are pulling you out of that quicksand, out of that muddy place where you just want to veg out, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like you said, it always kind of seems you end up having fun in the end, which is great. But it's like, why couldn't I just tell myself I'm going to actually have fun? Why do I need kind of everyone to convince me to go out when I know it's going to be a good time? But yeah, I'm kind of that same way, and it's really great to have people that want to help you, in that way.
Yeah. Well, this is the funny thing about this condition that we call ADD, which is a terrible term. It usually comes with the same stuff that you've been talking about, and I've never had depression as bad as you've had, but I've certainly had. I have dark times, dark moments, dark feelings, and it's real common in us ADDers to have this mood component, and sort of this trouble getting going, trouble starting things, and committing to things, and when I said it's the price you pay for having an imagination, it really is, because when our imagination is not constructing and building things for us and doing things for us, it often turns on us, and it just imagines all the worst about us, that we're stupid, fat, and ugly, or that life is never going to work out, or that people suck, or whatever it is, we can talk ourselves into a pretty dark place, and that's common in this condition. Is most people don't know about it or talk about it, the mood side and the dark side, but it's very, very common. So, and what you're doing with Kristen and learning about yourself, this is wonderful, because you'll be able to manage this as you get older, and not just think of it as something you have to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I actually think I kind of finally noticed that this past summer. I work at a golf retail store the past few summers, and it's really fun. It's a small store with 7 people and really cool bosses, younger guys. But I'd notice I'd be coming in. I remember driving there actually one day. It's a 25-minute drive usually for me to work. But I remember thinking, oh man, this is gonna be a long day. Tired, not feeling it right now. But I remember writing in my notes on my phone like, hey man, if you're gonna look at it like it's gonna be a long bad day, it definitely is. Like if you're gonna start it off that way, it's not gonna be enjoyable. So I'd almost come to work, and I remember one instance when, like everyone was kind of looking like, oh, it's going to be a tough one, and I'd kind of just I'd almost force my ADD to make it more fun. I'd be jumpy and jumping around, talking a lot, and it was kind of a joke where they'd be like, Andrew, no more coffee, like you're crazy. But it was almost like, yeah, we have the kid that's going to be kind of, hopefully bringing up the mood here. Just even if I don't want to, I knew it was kind of almost my job. It felt like to, use my ADD to kind of get everyone pumped up and ready for the day. And I keep thinking about it like that. It's my days usually, whatever starts my day is kind of how it feels like it's going to end up. So I got to I got to do my best to start it off positively, basically.
That's wonderful. So you're taking what you've learned about yourself, and then you're learning how to manage your mind, basically, and in so doing, help other people too.
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't think about it like that, but that's a really cool way. Is this? Yeah, it's kind of that first step of realizing what's causing this, what's doing it all, and luckily I was able to figure that out with, friends, family, Kristen, and Dr. Friesen, and then
you're not at the mercy of it. You're not the helpless victim of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, you kind of know it. It's one thing to kind of know what's causing it, what's going on, but then it's also another thing, I guess, to, use whatever's happening in a positive way and try to implement it in your day.
Right. Well, you've really made so much progress with this kind of stuff. What are your plans now?
Well, really, after, kind of dealing with all this stuff, working with Kristen a little while now, I want to go into something like that. I've switched my major to psychology, actually. I kind of realized it's the only thing I can, pay attention to in class. If I'm going to listen to economics or any business, and that's what I thought I wanted to do, I can't, I don't understand that stuff. I can't pay attention or listen. And I, noticed my intro to psychology class. I was like, oh, man, everything I hear is really interesting. This is cool. Like, I kind of want to read about it. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but I almost just feel, and Kristen would tell me, like, kind of after dealing with a lot of this stuff, I have a experience with it, I guess. It's something I can relate to really well, and I just want to help people in that way because I know how bad it can get almost, I guess, and I don't really want anyone else feeling that way. Even if I'm not a fan of you, you don't want to do that.
Right. Well, you'll be really good at it, Andrew, because
I appreciate it.
You have this firsthand knowledge, and you've learned, that you don't have to be at the mercy of these terrible dark moods and whatnot, and you're learning how to make, and you'll understand it when other people say, I just don't feel like doing anything. You'll be able to say something more useful than, oh, it's not that bad, or cheer up, or the usual things.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely tough. Everyone's a little different. You gotta. It's almost, I've always thought about it's hard when my friends and family, what's that question? What's wrong? Can I help? Stuff like that. And you almost don't know how far you want to push that person.
Right.
Maybe you kind of feel like, am I just annoying them, making them feel worse by now? But it's just tough to know, the right time and how to kind of express it to a different person of, we really do want to help you, and, let's get this figured out.
Well, you're going to be really good at doing this. It's wonderful. And you're continuing to work with Kristen, help her, and she's helping you, and Dr. Fries.
Yeah, definitely. She's, kind of, she has the great story of how she basically used her ADD and things like that to, become as successful as she is now. And it's cool to see, like, this isn't, like you say, a burden where you're just going to kind of give into it. You can use it as a positive.
Well, you've done that, Andrew. You've turned it into a gift. You've taken a curse and turned it into a gift. Good for you. I mean, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
How you've grown. That's really. It makes me want to jump up and cheer. You're beating back the bad demons of the mind, and you realize that we can. There are strategies that work, not just medication. There are ways using insight and connection, my favorite.
Yeah, and I really think, I think, even if you are kind of now not as outgoing and talkative as me, I think everyone does need that kind of human connection, basically, where you have people that are surrounding you and wanting to help and there to just talk. I think it's one of the, even if you are, like kind of someone that doesn't want to talk, you need to have that kind of sense of wanting to go out and, see people, help people, and have them help you as well.
Yeah. This is wonderful, Andrew. I can't thank you enough for joining us and being so open and honest. I'm sure a lot of listeners felt very heartened and moved and inspired by what you had to say. It's really brave of you to be so open, and it'll. I can promise you, it'll help a lot of people.
Well, yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the chance to kind of, explain what's going on.
Andrew Ewald used to go to Mizzou, and now he's in Columbia, Missouri, and really impressive young man. Thank you so much for joining us on Distraction.
Thank you. Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it.
Okay, that's our show for today. Many thanks to Andrew Ewald for joining me and us. I don't know about you, but I was just very, very impressed with that young man. Most of us have been there a little bit, not as intensely as he's been. and his description of depression and how it can just take you over, going to the basement in the dark and wanting to do nothing but be in the basement in the dark for not days or weeks on end, but months on end. And that's real depression, and it is a disease, and it has nothing to do with willpower. It can afflict anybody. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're weird or anything else. It is a disease that we do have some treatments for, but we don't have definitive treatments, nor do we have prevention. But certainly he has discovered methods of working with it and managing it that work very well, and right at the top of the list is the power of connection. And he's discovered how powerful that is. The irony being, when you're in a low spot, you don't want to connect. You don't want to do the very thing that could help you the most. And exercise would be number 2, connect and exercise. And those are the 2 things, when you're feeling that way, you just don't want to do. Pretty amazing guy. If he does choose to become a mental health professional, he'll be one of the best. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. Please continue to listen, tell your friends, and reach out to us with your comments, questions, show ideas, favorite recipe for pumpkin pie. I don't care. Just send it along to connect@distractionpodcast.com. Connect@distractionpodcast.com. Send us your questions, show ideas, anything you'd like to share with us so we can share it with our wider audience. That's why we're doing this, to connect, to create a community, and to try to provide useful information as well as connection in a world that really needs positive connection all the time. Well, that's it. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. The podcast is recorded and edited by the absolutely brilliant, mentally nimble, physically attractive Pat Keogh. And our producer is the absolutely incomparable, dynamic, brilliant, always in an upbeat frame of mind no matter what, Sarah Guertin.